Everyone working to program service from so we're gonna worship together. So 22 feet, but anyone might know the action. Oh yeah. Just a little bit of like. In my sin, in my doubts, in my vision, You are peace. Oh, you are peace. You are peace. Oh, you are peace. My lighthouse, my lighthouse, shining in darkness. I'll find you well. Lighthouse, my lighthouse, I will trust you promise. You guide me, set me true. Set you true. Set you true. Set you true. You are peace. You are peace. My lighthouse, shining in darkness. I'll find you well. My lighthouse, I will just promise. You are peace. My lighthouse, shining in the darkness. I'll find you well. My lighthouse, I'll just promise. You might be safe to safe to safe to safe to Release some. See this on your phone. I'll save you for myself. Jesus, I will be free. You are everyone forever. I see cross
We would say thank you, won't we? We'd say, don't sit down, don't sit down, don't sit down, don't sit down, unless you're holding a twin, you're not allowed to sit down. So we'd say thank you for the cross. So she just said, thank you for the cross. Thank you, Lord Jesus. Thank you for the cross that sets us free. And you might just want to think of something now, something else you want to say thank you for to God. Thank you for. It might be something in your life, it might be somebody who's in your life, it might be something that you enjoy doing, or something that you are just really grateful for. So why don't we just think of something that we want to say thank you to God for? So thank you, God. Thank you, God, for this time together this afternoon. Thank you that we can be here, we are children, that you love each and every one of us. We just pray for the rest of our time together this afternoon. You will really speak to us. We know that you're here with us, and we just want to hear more from you. We want you to be the voice of God. Amen. There's a big thank you. I think we can add to the thank you. I think we can say thank you for Philip and Elijah. Philip and Elijah here with us this afternoon. How many days old are they now? 10 days old. And look, they're already here. Isn't that exciting? So, yeah, thank you, God, for Elijah and Philip. Amazing job they're doing. An amazing job managing to get out of the house with 2 babies. That's a success. Well done. I think we might have a news video that we can watch. So I might just if yeah. Okay. So, some few things coming up this week. I wanted to mention 2 specific things. One is that Andrew and Annette's Bubbles Litter community are going to be doing the Bible course together. They started, but apparently it's not too late to join. They're doing something called the Bible course, which helps you understand the Bible, That's on Fridays at 7:45 at their house. If you're interested, why don't you just speak to one of us, get in touch with Kat in the office, she can give you their contact details and let you know where they are. Other thing is, we'd love you to join us for Alpha if you're available. Alpha starts, we had a sort of intro session last Thursday, but the first proper week of Alpha is this Thursday. We'd love you to come along, we'd love you to bring a friend. Why not try inviting someone? I can't remember what it was. It came up over the summer at one point, but however many people you invite, eventually you'll find something to come. So let's be bold and see if there's someone who'd like to come. And if you would like to do Alpha then, come along. Brilliant. I'm not going to say anything else at that point, but I think Sarah is going to go and start the quiz free. So just give because it means that my children will become brighter. So yeah. Oh, put the book the wrong way. So here we go. Right, anyway, I'm standing in like a level 1, 2, you'll go. Why don't we stand those of us who remain, or if you're able to, I should say. And I'm just going to pray as we just continue worshiping together. So, Lord, we thank you for your spirit. So we pray that you just calm down a way that we can really feel. Pray especially for anybody who has felt like you've been further away from you. I pray that especially for anybody who feels like that they want to really sense of you being close to them right now. I see darkness, you said it's mighty, it's so much stronger. King of glory, King of all kings. You say some more, we go thunder, release his presence, you are a wonder, King of glory, King of all kings. This is amazing grace. This is amazing love. You take my place. You bear my wounds. You turn around. Help me set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing all that you've done for me. You raise up chaos like into order. You makes the order, son of daughter, King of glory, King of all kings. You raise the nations, truth and justice, time and the sun, for your is brilliant, King of glory, King of all kings. This is amazing grace. This is amazing love. You take my place. You bear my wounds. You lay down your life. Yeah, I will be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing all that you've done for me. Worthy is the Lamb who slain. Worthy is the King, the conquering reign. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King, God to pray. Worthy is the Lamb who slain. Worthy is the King, God to pray. Worthy is the Lamb who slain. Worthy. Oh, this is amazing grace. This is amazing love. If you would say my praise, if you would ever my praise, you lay down your life, and I will be set free. Oh, Jesus, I see all that you've done. Oh, Jesus, I see all that you've done for me. On the cross of Calvary, your love was so to bring us peace again. Jesus, the mystery of majesty, broken our ways. Jesus, Jesus, praise the Lord, my soul. I will sing your praise. Praise the Lord, and the Lord will sing your praise. Sun that shone, the brightest star, love fell down, the heavens cried, Jesus, Lord, I Jesus, praise the Lord, my soul. I will sing your love. Praise the Lord, and the Lord. I will sing your love. Yes, I will sing your love. Declare all majesty, all everything in war, so victory. All majesty, all everything in war, so victory. Rose, victory. Praise the Lord. My soul will sing your love. I will sing your great love. So I will sing your great love. My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I cannot trust the sweetest friend, but fully trust in Jesus. My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I cannot trust the sweetest friend, but fully trust in Jesus. Christ alone, cornerstone, we may strong, stay strong through the storm. He is our Lord. When darkness seems to hide His face, I rest on Him, my changing every heart spoken care. My anchor holds within, my anchor holds within. Christ alone, cornerstone, we make strong. Savior's love through the storm. He is Lord, Lord, Lord. When He shall come with trumpets sound, only I am in you. Singing His righteousness alone. For the sins Lord, Christ alone, cornerstone, we make strong. Savior's love through the storms. He is our Lord.
Kings 17, verse 7 to 24. Sometime later, the brook dried up because there had been no rain in the land. Then the word of the Lord came to him: Go at once to Zarephath in the region of Sidon and stay there. I have directed a widow there to supply you with food. So he went to Zarephath. When he came to the town gate, a widow was there gathered sticks. He called to her and asked, would you bring me a little water in a jar so I may have a drink? As she was going to get it, he called, and bring me, please, a piece of bread. As surely as the Lord your God lives, she replied, I don't have any bread, only a handful of flour in a jar and a little olive oil in a jar. I am gathering a few sticks to take home and make a meal for myself and my son, that we may eat and die. Elijah said to her, don't be afraid, go home and do as you have said, but first make a small loaf of bread for me from what you have and bring it to me, and then make something for yourself and your son. For this is what the Lord God of Israel says, the jar of flour will not be used up, and the jar of oil will not run dry until the day the Lord sends rain on the land. She went away and did as Elijah had told her. So there was food every day for Elijah and for the women and her family. For the jar of flour was not used up, and the jar of oil did not run dry, in keeping with the word of the Lord spoken by Elijah. Some time later, the son of the woman who owned the house became ill. He grew worse and worse, and finally stopped breathing. She said to Elijah, what do you have against me, man of God? Did you come to remind me of my sin and kill my son? Give me your son, Elijah replied. He took him from her arms, carried him to the upper room where he was staying, and laid him on his bed. Then he cried out to the Lord, Lord, my God, have you brought tragedy even on this widow I am staying with, by causing her son to die? Then he stretched himself out on the boy 3 times and cried out to the Lord, Lord, my God, let this boy's life return to him. The Lord heard Elijah's cry, and the boy's life returned to him, and he lived. Elijah picked up the child and carried him down from the room into the house. He gave him to his mother and said, look, your son is alive. Then the woman said to Elijah, now I know that you are a man of God, and that the word of the Lord from your mouth is the truth.
Thank you, Maria. While I get myself ready, I've got a question for you to talk to each other about. Have you ever been asked to do something way and above your ability or your means? If so, what happened? What was the outcome to the request? And what did you feel through that? How did it make you feel? Talk for a few seconds with each other. Right, well, hold those conversations in your mind. I'm going to pray, and then I'm going to start talking. Lord God, thank you so much that you are here with us this afternoon. I ask by the Spirit that you would speak to us with words to say, bring. Lord, I pray that the only thing that sticks in our hearts and our minds afterwards is what's from you, not words from you. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. So, a good friend of mine took his family to Sierra Leone. His father's got a business who's is a majority shareholder in the hotel, and he was asked to oversee the project. But at the same time, he was asked not to take a wage, but he would be paid the dividends that he was being entitled to being family business. So he went out there, and then he felt called to use that small amount of money to support an orphanage in Freetown, that's the capital, and a nearby church. Then he felt called to support half of the church plant outside of the town, while his wife felt called to support a women's ministry. Now, as a family, they had a couple of individuals that would support on a monthly basis. But they had no church backing, no organisation backing. The vast majority of the money that they were spending to do these projects were their own. They felt called to do it. And yet, what they have seen God do through them in the 6 years that they've been out there so far has just been incredible. Now, I've had the honour of hearing about the good times, and I've had the honour about hearing about the hard times as well. I find their story inspiring and fascinating. And then, it's the way that they listened to God and just didn't hold back. They just jumped in with both feet. When things are going well, then it's really easy to think, oh yeah, God's really in this because things are going really, really well. And when things are really struggling, where is God in this? But it's actually in those difficult moments when the finances dry up, when human relationships break down, when the political system is against us, that we really experience the power of God and His keeping of us. Now, how is it possible that I can still keep going? Why am I still here? And it's in these moments when we understand that our provision is supernatural. I'm just going to park that story there for a while. We are starting this series on the life of Elijah and the life of Elisha, and seeing the parallel to Jesus' own ministry. Now, often when we try and read the Old Testament, we think, what's that got to do with Christianity? We might read a chapter in the Old Testament where the ground opens up and 5,000 people just swallowed very close. That doesn't sound very good, does it? That sounds a bit hard. Or we read bits about, where there's a bit in the Old Testament where a donkey starts talking. The New Testament's quite scientific and rational in comparison. So why can't we just have the New Testament? But we need to understand that the New Testament makes no sense without the Old Testament. There have been arguments throughout church history about the place of the Old Testament and its teaching in the Christian religion. And yet, without it, there is no Christianity. In Matthew chapter 16, Jesus asks his disciples, who do they, talking about the crowd was standing over there, who do they think I am? And the disciple says, well, some of you think you're John the Baptist, because he'd just been killed. Some of them say that you're Elijah. Others still, Jeremiah or one of the other prophets. And Jesus says, well, who do you say I am? And Peter says, you're the Messiah. The Old Testament fed into the New Testament understanding. Now, by Jesus' day, Elijah was the most significant prophet in relation to the Messiah. Later on, a few centuries down, the Jewish people would have a book called the Talmud, and in it explains that Elijah will come again in preparation for the Messiah and explain all the really difficult bits about the law that they received from Moses. Because let's face it, some of the law is really hard to understand, isn't it? And that's what they think Elijah's all about. So they just find that at Passover every year, and they have their big Passover dinner, they have a cup that is designated for Elijah. It's not touched, it's for Elijah, just in case he comes again. So when we get to this point in Jesus' ministry, and they're saying, oh, well, some say that you're Elijah, but we think you're the Messiah. You see, either Jesus was the Messiah, or Jesus was Elijah waiting for the Messiah. But in any case, the Messiah was coming, and Elijah was really integral to that expectation. And for the Jews, he still is. They are still waiting for the Messiah. But who is Elijah? Can anyone tell me anything that they know about Elijah? Shout out if you know anything about Elijah.
Prophet.
He's a prophet. Right?
Do you go up to heaven in the chariot?
Yes. He's a baby. He's a baby. Anything else about Elijah that they know?
His name is special.
His name is special. Yeah, we can talk about his name now. So, to be honest, we don't get a lot of information about who Elijah is, where he comes from. He appears in 5 chapters in the Bible, and yet he's this really significant guy. So who is he? Well, Elijah appears completely out of the blue in 1 Kings 17. And we're told that his name is Elijah, and that he is a Tishbite. Elijah means my God is Yahweh, and a Tishbite means a settler. The Hebrew word for settler. So here we have a man who is an immigrant to Israel, who's the only person at the time, really, who is worshipping Yahweh as God, because the rest of Israel, under the guidance of the king, the queen Jezebel, were worshipping the foreign gods, the Baals. So that's the context that we end ourselves in today's reading. This man, out of the blue, called Elijah, my God is Yahweh. A settler, an immigrant into Gilead, which is the region of Israel, goes up to the king and says, as long as my God lives, it will not rain until I say so. This random guy just stops the rain at the command of God. And then God sets him into hiding. Just goes. And he lifts off the last bit of water into a brook somewhere. And then that dries up. He's sent to Zarephath, which is a place in modern day Lebanon, on the coast. And then there he is to go to a widow. A widow who's fetching sticks, because God told Elijah that this widow was given food. But Elijah didn't know that the woman was just about to make her last meal and then resign herself and her son to death. God just tells Elijah that she will feed him. And when Elijah explains the situation, did you notice his response? It wasn't, no, I'm so sorry, I completely understand. I won't bother you again. He didn't say that. He said, well, go and do what you were going to do. But first of all, make me some food. Make me a cake. And then he says that the jar of flour will not be used up, and the jug of oil will not run dry until the Lord sends rain on the land. The flour won't be used up, and the oil won't run dry. We're trying to relate the Old Testament to the New Testament. So can anyone think of a story from the New Testament that this reminds you of? Fish and bread. Thank you. Feeding on the 5,000. It's exactly what my mind immediately went to as I was reading this. It was called Jesus fed 5,000 people, and the food did not run out. So if you don't know the story of the feeding of the 5,000, Jesus is pretty tired and he goes away from one crowd into the wilderness just to spend some time with him and his disciples. But the crowd get confused and they wonder where Jesus has gone. So they follow him into the desert. And they're there all day, from early morning to like last minute night. And then they start getting a bit hungry. And there's no one's brought any food with them. I mean, how amazing do you have, like, intrigued about Jesus that you maybe to make a packed lunch, just go into the desert without any food, just enough food. No one had any food apart from one boy. Now, maybe this boy was already in the desert. He might have been looking after some sheep, because that's why he's bought some provisions. He's going to be there for a few days. We don't know, but he's the only one who has bought some food. But Jesus didn't say, oh, well, no, we can't take this boy's packed lunch, can we? That's just mean. No, it's not fair. No, he took the bread, and he took the fish, and he broke it, and he gave thanks, and he gave it out. Now, just on a little side note, read the story of feeding of the 5,000 in the book of Luke, because it comes immediately after Herod is told that some people think that he is Elijah. And I found that really fascinating. It's not a mistake that Luke put those two stories together. That some people have heard that here is the new Elijah, and his first miracle after being told that is, well, it's not Jesus' first miracle, but the first story after that is the same or very similar to Elijah's first miracle. I just found that really fascinating. So read it, Luke's account of it. But Elijah says, so Elijah, back to Elijah. Make me a cake, Elijah says to the widow. How many times do we exclude ourselves or exclude other people, actually, when we know about circumstances? Is that, I haven't got enough money, or that person's too old, or that person's not old enough, my health isn't good enough, or I'm not clever enough. You know, God doesn't look at our circumstances, and I'm really thankful for that. That God doesn't look at my circumstances and make a judgment about how useful I am, according to the situation I'm in. Because 2 Corinthians 12 says, that's God's, grace is sufficient for you. For my power is made perfect in weakness. You know, God is most glorified when our obedience requires the most faith. God is most glorified when our obedience requires the most faith. Now, as I said earlier, when things are going well, it's easier to give. When our cupboards are full of food, it's much easier to feed someone a meal, isn't it? And there's a temptation to say to ourselves, well, I'll be able to give more, or I'll be able to do more when my circumstances change. But actually, what if our circumstances don't change? You know, this widow was going to go and make the last meal that she had for herself and for her child. There was nothing else. There was no more. So without a miracle, this woman was going to die. And I find this really challenging, because sometimes I've kind of withheld back from God because I'm worried about losing my own comforts, my own security. But I've never been in a situation where I genuinely thought that tomorrow was my last day. And so what I find absolutely inspiring about this passage in 1 Kings is that this widow who didn't worship Yahweh, she didn't worship God, she worshipped something else. She would share her last meal with a stranger knowing that she had nothing else to give. Can we say, hands on our heart, that we've ever stepped out in that level of faith? To give to God everything that we have, even if we think we can give no more. And yet, the miracle here is that by stepping out, the widow experienced an abundant provision from God. The flour never ran out, and the oil never dried. And similarly, Jesus feeding the 5,000, everyone ate until they were full, and then there was basket after basket of their favourites. My friend, the same one who moved to Sierra Leone, gave me a book to read once. A really good book, I recommend it. It's called If You Want to Walk on Water, You've Got to Step Out of the Boat. It's a long title, but it's very memorable. If you want to step on water, if you want to walk on water, you've got to step out of the boat. See, we cannot see God's amazing abundances by bunkering down and protecting the little that we have. There are some people here in this church that need to step out of the boat. That's not to say that when we do step out on faith, that things are just hunky-dory forever. No, life is hard. The widow had to experience the death of her son, and although God's power and glory was displayed by rising the son to life again, she had to deal with that. She had to deal with that pain. And sometimes we look at how difficult something might get and think, this is just going to get too difficult for me. It's not worth it. But Jesus said, seek the kingdom of God first, and then you will have everything that you need. Anxiety about tomorrow doesn't change tomorrow. So the question is, will you surrender everything that you have to God? Letting tomorrow worry about itself. If the widow had said no, she'd have gone, she'd have cooked her last meal, and she'd have died with her son. She wouldn't have experienced the amazing God who rescued her. And Jesus has rescued us. Jesus surrendered himself and gave himself so that we might live. So will you surrender to him? What life can you bring to others by giving yourselves completely to God? As I say, there are people here who need to step out of the boat. And there'll be people online as well, if you can hear this, that you need to step out of the boat. Because you're not seeing God's abundance, because you will not surrender your comfort and your security. There are people here who want to give and want to do so much more. Maybe you're scared of what that might mean. And then there are some people here who've given everything in the past. They've given everything. They didn't see that miracle that they were hoping for. Just like the widow whose son died. You've had to experience a hard life despite your own generosity. But in a moment we're going to respond to this. But I just think that actually, for now, let's just take a moment in silence and just allow God to speak to us. There's parts of what I've taught today which has made sense to people, parts which haven't. Just spend a moment just to allow things to settle. God's speaking to you right now. If you're able to, would you please stand as we respond to this? If you felt that if you feel worried about surrendering, worried about stepping out, maybe you've got nothing else to give, but you feel like you should give more to God in your life. If you feel utterly spent, then ask God. Say, Lord, I need your strength. I need to see that abundance overflow provision. I can't do this anymore without you. Lord, I'm crying out because I have nothing else to give. Oh, Holy Spirit. As we sing this next song, just keep allowing God to speak into your heart. For some, I think these words are going to be difficult for you to sing this afternoon. But if you allow Him to, God will give you the strength. He'll give you the courage. For you to sing these words and mean them.
Giving you all, and all that is within, lay it all down for the sake of you, my King. Giving you my dreams, laying down my rights, giving up my pride for the promise of new life. In I surrender all to you, all to you. And I surrender all to you, all to you. Singing this song, waiting at the cross, Lord loves to you. Count your last loss, say glory, glory of no lasting joy, sharing your in I surrender all to you, all to you, and I surrender all to you, all to you. So easy to just sort of sing. Everyone else is singing or is being asked to be. But I'd encourage you, let's just take this moment of singing again and have a think. Have a think, is this kind of where, is my heart really in this? If I sing this song, or I just still the thing? Is this the dumb thing? Maybe if you know that you can't sing it, and be real. Maybe just tell them that. Have a conversation. Giving you my heart, and all that is within. Lay it all down for the sake of you, my King. Giving you my dreams, laying down my rights, for giving up my pride, for the promise of new life. If I surrender all to you, all to you, and I surrender all to you, all to you. Singing this song, waiting at the cross, going was you, counting all our lost, for the sake of me, glory of your name, no lasting joy, you sharing in your day. In surrender all to you, all to you. And surrender all to you, all to you.
a couple of words before the service. One of them was that there's someone here who feels like they need to reach the top of a hill or a tower before they feel like they're effective for God. That they don't feel like you are adequate enough. And yet God will say to you that where you are right now is where I want you to be, because you can be effective there. So if you're at the bottom of the hill, you're in the middle of the hill, wherever you're at the top of the hill, it doesn't matter. God wants to use you where you are. And there's also a sense where someone's feeling like they're not very significant. You're feeling like you have no use. And the word royalty came to mind. That God wants to douse you honor and splendor because you are so significant to Him. You're so precious. You are made royal by Jesus. You're so significant.
As I'm looking out here, I can see this little baby that's being held by the parents, and they're being so careful, and they've got their hands behind their necks to keep them safe, because the baby's necks aren't strong enough. And I just felt God was saying, when you surrender to me, I hold you like that. I protect you. I care for you. It's not an unsafe place to be, because I know the very best I have for you. He just wants to give us the best. He wants to surround us with love. And then He is going to use us. That's okay, because we'll feel safe.
Be light in the darkness, Jesus in me can change the world. We can be sitting on a hill, we can be a light in the darkness, Jesus in me can change the world. We can be a city on a hill, we can be a light in the darkness, Jesus in me can change the world. Jesus in me can change the world. Jesus in me can change the world. We can be a city on a hill, we can be a light in the darkness. Jesus in me can change the world. We can be a city on a hill, we can be a light in the darkness. Jesus in me can change the world. Surrender all to you, all to you. And I surrender all to you, all to you. And
surrender all to you, all to you. And I surrender all to you, all to you. So Lord, we thank you for your patience, your mercy, and your love. Thank you that you rescued us, that we can fully put our trust in you. Lord, help us to leave this place in the security and knowledge that when we surrender ourselves to you, we're not abandoned, but we're strengthened. Help us to remember that you walk with us always. Amen. Okay. That'll be the end of our formal service. Hey, we kind of like dropped a bit of a heavy emotional bomb on us this afternoon. So if you want prayer, there's things which have been said this afternoon you really want prayer. Please do not leave this building without having prayed with someone. Very, very important. But otherwise, there is refreshments and God bless.